Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with some knife content. Today we are going to be looking at the Microtech Stitch. Recently got this one in, and I don't know, it was pretty cool. I did a camping trip, or went on a camping trip this past weekend, and this was one of the knives that I brought with me, so I got to spend some time with it, kind of figure out any of the quirks, or form my opinion on it, and wanted to share that all with you. As far as the box goes, this is the box that it came in. Very standard Microtech for this day and age. You know, inside you have this. I actually haven't even checked. I know the MSI did not have anything about the Ramlock, and this is the same thing. So it has the manual folder operation as well as the single action auto, but it does not cover how to open the Ramlock. So that's kind of a interesting piece there. Microtech, you need to update your brochures. With that, we're going to get into a few quick comparisons here. I only brought two knives out with me, but the Microtech Stitch as compared to a Chris Reeve Large Spenza 31 looks like that. And last but not least, we have a Demco 8020. So we will get into kind of the tech specs of this thing, and then I will cover some of my findings. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Alright, so the Microtech Stitch, which I did want to add that this is sold out everywhere. This is going to be the second iteration. The first iteration did not have these frag scales on it. I've also heard that the frag scale version, the one that I have, is much thicker than the original run, so I don't know what that is. That's just something that I heard. I have not tried the first iteration. This is the first one that I've ever owned. You can see here from the top of the blade here. So this is going to be a Borka Blades design. The blade on it is going to be 3.75 inches. It has an 8.5 inch overall length. It weighs 5.8 ounces. The pivot is going to be running on bearings. I did actually find some conflicting information online about the liner in this. I'm convinced that it's steel, but I've also heard people say that it is aluminum, but we're going to go with a, steel liner and then this Frag G10. This does feature Microtech's newer Ramlock, which also appears on the MSI that I reviewed. Some dealers, like I think it was Blade Center I was looking at, they actually categorize this as proprietary hardware, but it's not. It's just torque screws. This version also features a titanium backspacer. It has a steel pocket clip. The steel on this blade is going to be M390 MK, or Mike Kilo, which is supposed to be or offer better edge retention than M390. I can't confirm that. As well as the MSRP. I'm going to go with about $350. I think that's about how much this one ran, but not too sure. With that, we'll get into my observations of the Microtech Stitch. All right, the first observation that I had about the Microtech Stitch was I couldn't help but kind of reminisce, or, couldn't escape the fact that this reminded me of my old Microtech Select Fire. And back in the day, I used to have a couple of them, and there's a common theme there. So you have a ton of handle, a ton of pocket clip there to the blade ratio. So you can obviously tell, so a normal grip, or quote unquote normal, would be back here, but where the Stitch and also the Microtech Select Fire, coincidentally, where those things shined was with a choked up grip, and this is no exception. So the Microtech Stitch, this is the best feeling grip here. Getting into the choil, it has really nice jimping here. I will definitely give it that. And then you kind of, from there, you're gonna have this like thumb ramp that kind of lets you know where you are. So a choked up grip on the Microtech Stitch is by far the most comfortable grip. The next observation that I had about the Microtech Stitch is going to be these G10 handles, and this G10 here is some of the thickest G10 that I've ever seen in a knife. And interestingly enough, I'm not sure if you can see, I'll definitely take a picture and post it, but the liner does not go all the way to the bottom of the knife. So a very thin, low profile steel liner in here for, usually the liners are kind of the backbone of the knife, and the G10 is more of just like a cover on it to make it more grippy. That's not the case with this knife. It is relying, I would say, at least 40 to 50% of the rigidity of this knife is due to the backspacer and the G10. The liner, it's kind of just like, you know, it's there for the Ramlock, and then it just kind of continues along the spine of the knife. It really doesn't go down very far. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, the next observation that I had was, so, you know, like I said before, I found conflicting information online, but I'm pretty convinced that the liner in here is steel, not aluminum. It's kind of interesting to me that they picked a titanium backspacer, but then they went with an aluminum liner. Like, I don't know, that's kind of a weird thing to me, and I've never seen that before, and I'm assuming it was just due to cost savings. You know, obviously titanium being more expensive than stainless steel or aluminum, that's probably why they went with that. But it would have been nice, like, even at this price point, I don't know. I mean, what would it cost? Like $15 more, something like that. It would be nice to see all titanium, and that includes the pocket clip too. This is a steel pocket clip, and I guess I'll get to it right now. Like, these pocket clips are just doo-doo. Like, they're completely, like, they're super springy, soft, spongy. I hate these pocket clips, and this is the exact same one that was on my MSI. And at this price point, again, like, you hate to spend this amount of money and then feel like you need to get a different pocket clip. Like, it is just so spongy, obtrusive. This spoon right here to hit your pocket corner, it's just not worth it. Like, I really wish that they would have done a better job with the pocket clip and then the choice of materials for the liner. All right, and the next observation that I had about the Microtech Stitch is going to be how much the blade protrudes out of the body of the knife. I mean, that's pretty substantial. It's at least, you know, 70% of the blade, you know, sticks up above the handles. And I don't know, I guess it's not a big deal, but they definitely went for the look of this knife when it was opened, and they weren't too concerned about when it's closed. But this is a very wide knife. Again, compare that to, I'll pull out my Chris Reeve Sebenza right here. I mean, it's just a very, very tall knife, and with the Sebenza, you're even getting a longer blade. So just something of note. All right, the next observation that I had, or what I wanted to talk about, was the action on this knife. And what I found, again, it's not like this knife is old or it's been beat up, whatever. Literally, the guy that I bought this from opened it up, didn't like how heavy it was, interestingly enough, because I don't think it's a very heavy knife. Ended up selling it, but this was produced in July of 2023. Today's August 2nd. Like, this is a relatively new knife, and the pivot, so this is, you know, presumably, well, it is on bearings. It's almost like gritty or weird. Like, it's not smooth at all. There's little, like, not detents, but stops along the way that kind of just make it, it's almost like a pulse when you pull it open. You're going to get a bunch of little kind of resistance pieces before it finally opens. And, you know, all told, I've not cleaned this knife, I haven't taken it down, but it was kind of weird to have a knife that's less than a month old that I don't think this guy flicked it that much. I definitely didn't flick it that much, but the action just feels very gritty when you kind of slow roll it. Like, if I slow roll it with my thumb, you can kind of like feel all, like, maybe it's the bearings, like I can kind of like, you can feel the bearings turning on themselves, and that's kind of weird for a knife running on bearings. All right, the next observation that I wanted to bring up was going to be this blade shape, which is definitely heavily influenced by Borka blades. It's kind of futuristic, you know, future apocalyptic, whatever. There's definitely a cool factor to this knife, I guess, if you're into that kind of like fantasy type knives. This definitely will raise some eyebrows if you pull this out in your office job to open up a FedEx box. Like, it's not the most under the radar blade shape, but I will say, since what I've seen, the MSI and the Stitch have, you know, since they share the same Ramlock, they've been compared exclusively. And I know I kind of had some drama with my MSI. I have not tried to do any spine strikes with this one because I'll get to in a minute, but I am planning on selling this one, so I don't want anybody to have any excuses about what I did to it. But I will say the blade shape on the MSI is much more useful. This one's a little bit more gimmicky and like cool, like air quote cool. Look at how cool it is. And honestly, while I'm at it, I'll talk about Ramlock. I'm just gonna say it. I do not like the Ramlock design. You know, my MSI, I'm pretty sure I just had a dud. Which it really, like, it's not fair for me to broad stroke this lockup mechanism, but honestly, it's just like, where I'm at. Like I do not like the Ramlock system. I don't enjoy closing this type of knife. I kind of get away I get away with it with my Benchmade bug out because it is a smaller blade, but I don't trust myself, and I hate having to use, you know, I don't know. I feel much more comfortable with two hands closing this knife. I'll take a liner lock all day, you know, a push button like my Mordax is. I don't like having to hit two plungers, so I have to basically change my grip, get up here, make sure I don't have any like skin in the way, or I'm down here. See, ask me how I know I'm still healing from that. I don't like to have to use my thumb and my pointer finger to close a knife. It just doesn't feel good. It's 2023. Come on, why do I need to use two hands when, you know, a company like Demco has figured it out? I can use one finger. I don't have anything in the way of the cutting surface. Like, this is kind of what I've come to expect. And like, I know everybody's losing their mind over the M-Lock system. I do not like how you have to close it with these two fingers. I just don't. All right, and that concludes my overview of the Microtech Stitch. Overall, I think this is a cool knife, and I certainly understand the popularity. The Stitch at this price point, I do think that it's priced right for the design and the materials, although it would have been really nice, again, even if it would have added 15 bucks to this thing, I would have really liked to see titanium liners in this, in keeping with the titanium backspacer. Like I said before, I definitely get Microtech Select Fire vibes, or even like CKF Evo based on the grip. That being said, though, I have to be honest, like, I'm not going to be keeping this. I just haven't connected with it. I can see the appeal for some, like some people, this is kind of the bee's knees. I mean, certainly these are sold out everywhere, but I do think I gave it a fair shake. Again, like, I carried it for an entire weekend in the backcountry, you know, without cell service. Like, I mean, I was spending a lot of time with this knife, and we just didn't connect. So yeah, with that, kind of where I'm at. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a few more videos coming up here, hopefully before the weekend, so stay tuned. But yeah, appreciate it. We'll see you next time.